Welcome back to Crunch Labs. I'm Mark Rober, and today we're going to be talking about the mirror bank and all the juicy physics that go along with it. Now, if you just got it and you haven't opened the box, let me show you what it does. Basically, you take your hard-earned coins that you get from your birthday or from doing chores, and you stick it in here, and yet somehow, when you put the coins in, the box stays empty. And that is all it does. That's the only thing it does. But if your parents are watching this video with you, or maybe a sibling, make them leave the room, because I just want to talk just one-on-one for a second. Just a little bit of a talk, just us. So I'll wait. Kick him out of the room. All right, so here's the deal. You think that's all it does, but then when you hand it to them and say, see if you can try and figure out, there's a little knob here and an arrow. And then when they go to open it up, whoosh, spider attack. So it's like a prank bank. If it's just a box without any of this, and then you open the lid and there's a spider, they're gonna be suspicious. But when you hand it to them and tell them, hey, try and figure out how it works, they're never gonna see it coming. Okay. You can let him back in the room now. And this one's great because I've used mirrors, like the scientific application of reflection, in just a ton of my videos. So it'll be fun, sort of peek under the hood and maybe catch some real world science that you didn't catch the first time you watched the video. So let's get started. As usual, we're gonna start with our question of the day, and it's meant to be hard. You won't know the answer, but we'll use all the stuff here to detective our way to the answer. So let's see what we got. How can you reveal a one-way mirror? What does that mean? All right, I always miss left. I'm hitting the camera this time. Oh, I feel like just hit Jens, our cameraman right here. All right, well, what do I even mean by a one-way mirror? Remember at Crunch Labs, I've got that secret museum underneath where you shoot the tennis ball cannon of all my old builds, and then if you hit the button you're not supposed to hit, suddenly those mirrors turn see-through, and then you can see into the museum. That's what a one-way mirror is. Confusingly, it's also referred to as a two-way mirror, but they mean the same thing. It's basically a mirror that looks like a mirror, but you could actually be on the other side looking out and you wouldn't know it. Another great example of these, there's like these Ripley's Believe It or Not museums, and when you come in the entrance, there's a mirror, and it says, did you know only 1/3 of people can flip their tongue upside down? And so you have all of these people who stop in front of the mirror and they're looking at themselves, you know, pulling it, trying to flip it upside down, and it's kind of funny. And it's not till you get to the end of the museum and you leave, you realize you can actually see through. That's a one-way mirror. So people leaving the museum get to see people coming in, and then it's their turn when they leave. Police interrogation rooms also use these, but it begs the question, what if there's a person standing behind every mirror? Like, how could you possibly know if it's a normal mirror or a one-way mirror? Well, there's a very simple trick. That's the answer to our question today that I'm going to show you at the end. But before we get to mirrors and talk about how mirrors work, let's just talk about how light works. Now, if you're in a completely dark room, there's no photons, and so therefore you just don't see anything. But as soon as you turn on the lights or you go outside and there's the sun, now suddenly what happens is there's photons bouncing around, and if it hits this, what comes and goes through that camera and then to your eye are all the wavelengths that are green. So basically, photons hit this and they bounce off, and depending on what wavelength they have is what color you see. Your eyes are basically electromagnetic wave detectors. So if something is black, that means all the photons that hit this, it absorbs it and it doesn't let anything bounce out. So it's black. If it's white, that means it reflects everything. So all the photons, all the different wavelengths, come back, hit the camera, hit your eye. This is why if it's a hot day and you're in the sun, a white shirt's better than a black one, because the black one absorbs all those wavelengths and then it becomes hotter. So if something is green, that actually means it absorbs all the different photon wavelengths except for green, and green it bounces back at you. So now that we know light kind of reflects off things and comes back, let's check this out. We've got a mirror here, and this is gonna be like a perfect reflection. So I've got a laser, I'm gonna shine on the mirror, and you know what? You can't really see that well. So I've got this stuff. This is what you see in like spy movies when they spray it to see the laser, or like for filming they use this. It's like a fog, so then when you shine the light, it just looks a little more mysterious. So I'm going to spray this. You can't even really see it, but now suddenly you can see that laser way better because it's bouncing off all those little particles in the air. But what I want to point out here is whatever angle the laser comes in on the mirror, if I'm at a shallow angle like this, or maybe I go to 45-degree angle, it bounces off at the same angle. Now I'll go all the way over here really steep, perpendicular to the mirror, and it bounces off and it hits itself. And that works not only vertically, but horizontally. This is why things are backwards in mirrors. If I have a letter A here, the photons will bounce here and come off here. So if you're looking in the mirror, it will be opposite. Have you ever noticed the word ambulance on the front of ambulance is backwards? Why would that be? Is that a mistake? Did they just mess up all the ambulances? Well, no. When you read ambulance, for the most part, where are you seeing that? If you're a driver, it's in your rear view mirror. If they need to get behind you, they want to make it real easy for you to tell that it's an ambulance there. So they write it backwards on the hood, so then you look in the mirror, it'll be backwards. Pretty clever. And mirrors generally are just really cool. I want to show you something here. My grandma had a situation where, and maybe you've seen this too, where you have two mirrors like this and they face each other, and you sort of get that infinity effect. I'm going to sort of fake it here by putting these two mirrors like this. And so what's happening now is these light rays are coming in here, and it's going back and forth, and there's loss, right? Because they're hitting little particulates in the air. The glass kind of diffuses them, so it doesn't go infinitely, but you put your fingers in like this. And then if I take my phone and sort of film it as I do that, you can see my fingers come down, and there's just like a seemingly infinite number of my fingers performing in unison. It's really fun to experience if you've never seen that before. Look for two mirrors, and you could just hours of entertainment. Before we had YouTube, that's how we entertained ourselves, kids. Just kidding. YouTube is good. Watch my videos. So I used mirrors on one of my really old videos. There's this bullet time effect where you could have a ton of cameras. This is like in a movie called The Matrix. And if all the cameras took a picture, just one right after the other, you get this really cool effect, right? Well, you can do a simplified version of that, I discovered. I took a GoPro and a ceiling fan, turned it upside down and spun it around. And you kind of got a similar effect on a budget. But the problem with the GoPro is it can't film as high speed as a really nice, expensive high-speed camera. But high-speed cameras are heavy, so you don't want to put them on a rig. So what I did was I put the high-speed camera on the bottom in one place, and then I had a mirror at this spot and a mirror here. And so now whatever I put above it, the photons and the light rays would reflect off one mirror, off the other, and then into the camera and into the sensor. So it's a simplified version. Instead of having a ton of cameras like they did for The Matrix, with one camera, I could get really interesting footage like this. Alright, so far we've been just talking about flat mirrors. Let's talk about different shapes of mirrors. So one example is convex mirrors. That means the light rays come in, and instead of bouncing straight back out like a normal mirror, now it comes, and you can see it would make sense because this is curved, it would bounce this way. This one bounces a little less steep. This one right in the middle bounces right back at it, but these ones bounce down that way. What effect does that have? Well, it's like this fisheye effect, right? Everything there is a little smaller, but the light rays are coming out and doing this. So it sort of looks like a fishbowl. Where might this be useful? Maybe you've seen this. Well, you see this sometimes in stores. So if I'm working the register, I can kind of keep an eye on the store because you put this up in the corner and it shows you the whole store, so you know if customers are in there or not. Sometimes you see this around curves on a road. If there's a tight turn, you can't see behind it. There'll be one of these here, so the car can just really have a nice wide angle view to see if someone's coming from the other way. Even on side mirrors on cars, sometimes you'll have little small versions of these, so you can check the blind spot. So very useful application of mirrors in this case. Or heck, you can even see my whole studio here. If you zoom in right here, you can see how it reflects and shows you everything that's going on, which is pretty interesting. So that's a very practical application of a convex mirror. Now let's talk about the other case, a concave mirror. Now instead of it being shaped this way, it's shaped this way. So the light rays that come in come back down like this. Easy way to remember, by the way, which one's concave and convex. Well, you can go into a cave. So this shape, you can go into it more, right? So it's concave, whereas convex, you can't go into it, right, from this side, so it's convex. So where do you see concave mirrors? Well, one example is in flashlights. So you put the bulb right here at what's called the focus point, and all the light that emanates from that bounces off the mirror, bounces off the mirror, bounces off the mirror, and goes straight out. Here's another fun example. Now you would have seen this in my first squirrel video. If I place a little frog here at the bottom of this mirror, and then put it right here, gives this super cool effect. This is called a virtual image. So it looks like the frog is up here, but it's actually not. This is how I tricked Fat Gus. I put a walnut down there. I tried to get him to the stall to try and grab that fake walnut while he got flung off the Squirrelapult. Now here's another behind the scenes nugget I've never said publicly, but if you watch back that footage when I placed the walnut in there, I pull my hand back super fast. Why do you think that is? Well, let's look over here. All of the sun's rays are coming in and they all point to one specific spot. It's called the focal point. And when I put that in, I put my finger right into the focal point, and it was really hot because it was all concentrated in one spot. In fact, if you take a piece of paper and set it at that focal point, it will get so hot it'll actually catch on fire. All right, and let's talk about one more principle behind mirrors that I think is the most fascinating of all. For me, I first discovered this as a kid because we kind of had one section in our house where there are two mirrors that came together. And what you'll notice in that case is no matter where you move around, your head is always in the middle of those two mirrors coming together. I've got my phone here, and I've got three mirrors coming together. So I'm just gonna film, and so from the perspective of the phone, which in this case is the eyeball, you notice, look right at that spot. No matter where I move the phone, no matter where I go, if you do the math on the light rays and the photons bouncing back from this spot, any photons bouncing from here will bounce off these three mirrors and come right back to the same spot. And here's that same trick from a different perspective. So we'll turn on this flashlight, or torch, depending on where you live in the world, and we'll set it right on the camera there. And now, that light is basically right on top of the camera, which is your eye in this situation. So this is like, if you were here in real life, you notice no matter which way I orient these, if I move it up, down, to the sides, any orientation, your eye is always right in that corner. Now this is an interesting trick, but it's super useful and effective in real life, and you've actually seen it a bunch. We're gonna turn off the lights to demonstrate some very useful applications of this. All right, so I've got a white piece of paper here. The light is still on the camera. As you can see, the light rays are hitting this, and it doesn't really stand out that much, to be honest. But if I hold up a street sign, this almost looks like it's glowing, like it has its own light source, but I promise you it doesn't. And no matter which way I angle this at, notice how the light is still bouncing back and going into the camera. Basically, those three mirrors that are in and out of corner, we call those retroreflectors, they've shrunk them down and put them all over this sign, so that no matter which way the light comes in, it bounces it back at you. And this is so cool, because if you're in your car and your headlights are shining, this sign lights up almost as if it has its own power source, and yet it's completely passive. It's a super clever application of retroreflectors, or those three-corner mirrors, taking advantage of the light, bouncing right back no matter where it's coming from. Here's another example. These are those bumps on the road, right? And you can see how these also just really pop. If I turn them to the side where there are no retroreflective material, they basically disappear. Turn them back this way, suddenly they completely light up. Other places you'll see this, because this is very useful, on the golf course. The flag stick has a corner cube because people use rangefinders to see how far away the flag is. So it shoots out a signal, and because of the corner cube, you're guaranteed the signal is going to come back to you. So depending on how long that takes, knows exactly how far the flag is. You might have seen these stickers before. Maybe on your bike helmet, sometimes on the front and back of bikes, you have material like this. These are tiny little retroreflectors, just like these bumpers. And that means any like car headlights will see these and they'll pop really bright, just like these bumpers. In fact, you could see retroreflective stickers just like this all on the floor when we did the Domino robot. This is how the Dominator knew where it was in the room, and by using retroreflective stickers, the IR really popped and it made it easy for the camera to pick out these spots. On my automatic bullseye dartboard, these little gray things on the dart are also retroreflectors, again, so that the cameras can shine IR and they really pop, and it makes it easy for the cameras to see it, so then we could track the dart three-dimensionally so that the dartboard could move to the right spot to get a bullseye. Even on the egg drop from space, there was like a gold sphere-looking reflector thing of three circles all orthogonal at 90 degrees to each other. And that's the same principle here. And that's so that if a plane shoots out a radar signal, it would hit that corner, go right back at it, and it would pop. You would see the balloon really well on radar, and it would just be really obvious and therefore easy to avoid. And the last example I'll give is that when the astronauts went to the moon on Apollo 11, 14, and 15, they placed retroreflectors on the moon so that we could measure down to a centimeter how far the moon is away. The way that works is basically you shine a really high power laser at the moon. It takes about 2.5 seconds to get back, and that tells you, because we know the speed of light, down to a centimeter, how far away the moon is from Earth at any given time, which is just super cool. All right, so let's answer our question of the day. How do you reveal or detect a one-way mirror? The way mirrors work is you just kind of have a piece of glass, and on the back of that glass is this shiny reflective material. So the light comes through the glass, hits the reflective bit, and bounces out. Now the trick to one-way mirrors is it's the opposite. The reflective part is on the front face of the glass. It's called a front surface mirror. That's actually what we're using in Bank because it's just a better effect, because the edge is less detectable. So for a one-way mirror to work, just like in Crunch Labs where I hide all my old builds, the front surface is the part that's reflective. There's no layer of glass. That's what's happening here. The front surface is reflective. There's just one strip of LEDs, and you kind of have that really cool infinity effect. So if you're standing in front of a mirror and you're not sure if it's a one-way mirror or just a normal mirror, the way to tell is you take your fingernail or any object and you touch the mirror. And if there's a gap in between your fingernail and the reflection of your fingernail, then it's just a normal mirror. That's how mirrors work. It goes through the glass, hits the reflective part, and come back. For a one-way mirror to work, the reflective part is on the front surface. So if you take your fingernail and you touch the mirror, and your fingernail touches your fingernail perfectly, well then you probably should wave to the person on the other side, because you're not standing in front of a normal mirror. Okay, so now we'll cover how to put it together. As usual, you could follow along with this video and pause, or you could use the paper instructions, or some combination of both. And as usual, I'll fly through this in just a couple of minutes, but it'll take you anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. First, find the clear plastic window and the wood panel with the Crunch Labs logo. Then flip the wood panel over so the Crunch Labs logo is facing down. Then peel and stick the window to the back of the wood panel. Next, grab a wooden side panel and 2 O-rings. With the diagonal etching visible, slide the front panel into the slits on the side panel. Then use 2 O-rings to fix it in place. Then locate the wooden back panel and slide it into the slits on the side panel, just like the previous step. Then use 2 more O-rings to secure it in place. Then find the bottom panel and slide it into the bottom 2 slits on the side panel. Then lock it in place with 2 more O-rings. Next, grab the remaining side panel. Then with the etching facing the inside of the box, slide the side panel over all 6 exposed tabs. Then hold it in place by attaching 6 O-rings. Next, bring out the mirror. Peel the protective film off both sides and place your mirror on a clean surface that won't produce any smudges or scratches. And just like we talked about, this is a front surface mirror, so we want to make sure we're using the right side. And how do you do that? Well, just like the answer to our question of the day, you grab a pencil or a pen from home and gently touch it to both sides of your mirror. Then take a close look and see if the pencil tip is touching its reflection or not. If there's a gap between the tips, then that's the wrong side. If there's no gap at all, then you know you found the right side, because that's the front of the front surface mirror. Next, find the rainbow hemisphere and the blue adhesive foam circle. Peel one side of the blue adhesive foam and stick it to the flat side of the rainbow hemisphere. Now peel the other side and stick the hemisphere to the mirror. With the rainbow hemisphere facing the window, slide the mirror into the wooden box at a 45-degree angle. It should fit flush with the front panel. Next, locate both of the plastic yellow rails and 4 O-rings. Then slide them from the inside out into the remaining slots in the wood box. Then use the 4 O-rings to hold them in place. Next, find the 2 red wood pieces. Then peel and stick them to the inside of the wooden box like this. These pieces will secure the mirror in place. Next, grab the wooden dowel and the dark blue plastic wire. Then slide the dowel into the tube of the plastic wire. Next, pick out 2 black O-rings and slide them over each end of the dowel to hold the plastic wire in the center. Then find the black elastic cord and slide the elastic cord into the small ring in the plastic wire. Next, find the black spider and a white O-ring. Then slide the white ring over the rear end of the spider like this. Then slide the tip of the plastic wire into the white O-ring on the spider. The O-ring should fit into the notches in the plastic wire. Then squeeze the wooden dowel into the top 2 holes in the red and wood pieces. Start with one end of the dowel and then slide it in the other. And you want to make sure the spider ends up facing the front panel. Now find the yellow sticker foam and the wooden lid with the matching etching. Then punch out the center piece and peel and stick the yellow foam to the wood lid. Now grab the elastic cord that's attached to the spider and feed it up through the circular hole in the wooden lid. Then find the large wooden knob and peel the remaining backing off the yellow sticker foam. Then with the metal aglet sitting flush inside the slot foam, stick the wooden knob on top of it. Now hold the spider back and carefully slide the wooden lid into the yellow rails. Now it's time to test it out. Open the lid and watch the spider jump out onto your hand, and then you'll see it automatically retreat back into its home inside the box when you slide the lid shut. All right, now for the engineering hustle this month, I think it's pretty obvious what it should be. You gotta get people with the spider trick. And let me give you some tips, because I'm a bit of a prankster. I've had a lot of experience with this. I love doing stuff like this when I was your guys' age. The key is not to oversell it, right? Let them try and figure out how it works. You show them, you know, whoa, somehow the coins are magically disappearing, and then you just challenge them, see if you can figure out. When you hand it to them, naturally they're gonna look all around, and they'll pull it open, and the spider will come out. But don't tell them to slide it open. If they do it on their own, you're gonna have more success with this prank, and I cannot wait to see the reactions. All right, well, good job today. As usual, this is just the beginning, so you need to be thinking, you know, what are you gonna do to use your engineering skills to take this mirror bank to the next level? Because engineering is an iterative process. Maybe some things you might try is decorating the outside of your bank to make it look really cool. If you wanted to get real ambitious, you could try and make a magic box of your own, sort of like shown here. If you happen to have two mirrors that come in an angle like this, it's pretty fun to take some art. I stole some of these crayons from my son. If you put that in the corner, you get these really interesting, kind of almost kaleidoscope-like shapes. Either way, no matter what you do, make sure you show off what you did, work with your parents so you can post it online, tag us at Crunch Labs, because I genuinely love seeing the wild stuff you guys come up with and how you use these boxes. If you post it, I promise I will see it at some point. All right, so that's it. You've now earned your gear badge for mirrors, so go have some fun putting your coin mirror bank together. Heck, save some money with the coins you put in there, and I'll catch you next month right here at Crunch Labs. Oh, and if you're watching this and you haven't yet somehow ordered your BuildBox subscription from Crunch Labs, then what the heck are you waiting for? Visit crunchlabs.com with a parent, and once you're there, you can learn more about how it all works. Thanks for watching.